Welcome to Ploughman's Backyard. My name is Kendra and today we're out in our backyard. I'm just going to head out now. I'm going to let the chickens out. We've got them divided up a little bit just because I'm wanting to really keep them segregated into their different breeds and stuff so that it's better for me as I'm hatching eggs. We're going to be starting hopefully soon the chicken coop that was supposed to be built probably last year, but it's a work in progress and sometimes things go slower around the homestead than usual, and that's quite okay. And I'm going to take you around. I'm just going to show you what's coming up in the garden and what's not. And just, it's a great way, it's kind of like a little bit of a journal or a diary, just year to year, see how things are growing and just the progression of how things are, especially since we started gardening here. I want to say it was about 2017, 2018 that we started putting in our perennial garden. And so each year, just seeing how things are flourishing and how things are growing so well, it's really neat for me to even go back and look, but it's really neat for you guys to see the progression as well, how things are growing. I have to say, I was overlooking at my pear trees and I can't believe how large they've actually gotten just since last year. So they took a really long time to get started, but they're doing really well now. So I'm just gonna head over and we're gonna let the chickens out today. It's a beautiful day out. It is black fly season here on our homestead, but there's a bit of a wind, which makes it a great day to get out and do stuff because they're not so bad when the wind's out. So first, I'm just going to let out the partridge chanticleers and get them in their run. I just have them segregated over here for now until we get our separate coops built. This is kind of working out for just these guys here. So this isn't her offspring, but one of our hens went broody this winter and we put some eggs under her and she hatched out a blue lace red Wyandotte for us. So until he or she is big enough, I want to say it's a he, then we'll have to separate him. But right now he still likes to be with his mom, so they seem to get along okay for the moment. We still have some cleaning up to do from our winter tarps, but it's been raining so much that we've left that on just to keep them dry in their run here. But these are the barnyard mix, and now just letting out the blue laced red Wyandottes, which is these ones I'm really wanting to keep. I really do like these guys. And I'm segregating, because I have two roosters, I'm segregating one for the daytime over there and the other one over here with a couple hens each. Beautiful birds. They're very similar to the partridge chanticleers. They have like no combs and wattles, which is great for winter and winter hardiness. Decent egg layers, and their hens go broody and they're a good decent size. So I've just separated them. It's pretty easy to do. During the night, they kind of all roost together. There's a temporary fix and it works out quite well. So I've got this dark, more maroon colored, I guess, red rooster. And then we've got the blue or gray rooster in the back. And then we've got a few hens. So I just separate them, and we're hoping, we've been saving eggs from these guys or these ladies, and we're going to be hatching out just the blue lace red Wyandottes next, because I do want to increase this breed specifically. Both roosters are really great. They're not great with each other, but very friendly, decent to the hens as well. All of them are really great egg layers, producers. The blue lace red Wyandottes and the partridge chanticleer do lay less eggs than the barnyard mix. It's kind of why we kept the barnyard mix around for so long, just because of their egg production. I do need to pick a breed and just stick with that, and we will have more space and less birds. These guys here, these two hens, are about, well, even the roosters, they're in their second year, and this hen here, she's the oldest. She is in her third year. She has hatched out a few different chicks in the past, so we're hoping she'll do the same this year, and that these ones will kind of pick up the slack when she is done laying her eggs. So I also just have to remove this tarp so that I can get tilling the garden. Typically I don't plant in the garden anyways until usually the second week to June, but I've got to clean all that up and till it and put the tarp back down onto that. And the garlic is coming up really well. Very happy with that. Need to do some more weeding again. These little weeds that come up all the time, I'm not sure what they are, but the garden you can see. So I only grow the garlic in this area, and we get a lot of garlic out of it, so I'm quite happy with how things are coming up here. Behind it you can see the rhubarb and my currants. They're doing really well, flowering, and my haskaps. Doing a little trial and error on propagating them this year, and so far they seem to be going okay. The haskaps are flowering really nicely. We should get lots of fruit again this year. We got a lot of fruit last year from the haskaps. Got my chives and a lot of flowers on the currants as well. Like the red ones and the pink ones are my favorite, but the birds tend to like them as well. But I'm very happy with our haskaps. The asparagus, so that's what I'm going to be spending today doing. You can see the asparagus is coming up. We got another asparagus here, and we've got another asparagus coming up here. As you can see, I need to weed all of here. So I have all this section is all asparagus, and they do come up even among the weeds, but I do weed this quite often. So in the beginning of the spring, I might have to come out once a week and weed it, and then by the summer, I don't have to continue to weed this garden. But we always get a lot of asparagus from here. So that's my job today, is to come out and weed the asparagus. I think we planted about 150 to 200 asparagus crowns about 7 years ago. And we're really happy so far with how that's going. Right in here, I've been cutting down a bunch of these. You can see it's not so cut down here, but I've been cutting this down. And our new coop is going to be going in here, and I'm going to be fencing off along my bushes so that the weeds are not going to be taking over my haskaps and my asparagus. So this is still a bit of a work in progress here. Right here is our blueberries. These might be maybe 5 years old. And we've got six blueberries, 6 blueberry plants. And they really are just starting to come on in the last couple of years. They're growing quite well. Yes, so I've got to cut all these mini little trees down, and this is where the coop run is going to be, in here. Just preventing all these weeds from growing into my berry bushes. And we've got our apple tree. This was the very first apple tree we planted. So pretty. Lots of blossoms so far. Hopefully we'll get some more apples. I think we got maybe a dozen apples off this tree last year. This one was planted a little bit later. We haven't got any apples off of this yet. Lots of blossoms though, so I do need to do some pruning to this one as well as the other one. And then we have a wild apple over there. We just keep it there because it's a great pollinator for our other apples. And then we have our raspberries, which they're not looking too bad, actually. This is our raspberry patch. We've got 1, 2, 3 rows. Again, probably about 200 crowns planted a few years back. So this is one of our pear trees. When we planted it, I want to say it was maybe 2 feet tall. It's well over, I don't know, 6, 7 feet, well over 7, I would say. I do need to come down and prune this maybe next winter. It's kind of gone crazy. It's hard to get down here because the snow's so deep in this section, but I cannot believe how much it's flourishing. So I'm really hoping there is some blossoms coming out onto this, some new growth. So I'm hoping in the next couple of years, maybe we'll see some pears. These were planted about 5 years ago as well. So I'm not really expecting much fruit from it, maybe for another 2-3 years maybe. But it seems to really be happy in this location. It's doing well. Got another little pear tree over here as well. So this is a Southworth pear tree, and that's in the back corner. Southworth pear. It's not doing the best, but it's a lot taller than when I planted it. Oh, this one here. So this is another pear tree also. And this pear is a Crasulia pear, but that is the one that we have our first pear blossoms on. And that is the Crasulia pear tree. That's a really good sign. I haven't seen blossoms yet, but this one also needs to be pruned and shaped into a tree. The first few years I've just kind of let them go wild just to make sure that they got a good root system growing. So yeah, I'm looking forward to really shaping this one into a beautiful pear tree as well. Here is usually where I plant my corn and my squash, so it's not too bad. You know, you can plant a lot of things in a small spot. We have just under 2 acres and we've got a lot going on here. So You can do a lot with very little. This here is another pear tree. Seems not to be really doing a whole lot this year, but it is coming about. I do see a tag here. What is it called? Lorraine pear. Okay, I'll have to remember that. That's cool. This one, it was maybe a foot tall when I planted it. I would have to say it's probably looking at the 3.5 to 4 feet now. Needs to definitely be pruned. This one here is a tiny little apple. I'm not lying. I want to say this was maybe a foot, if that, when I planted it. So it's taking a long time to get going, but it's looking around the 3 to 4 feet tall now. So it really has sprouted up. So they're quite happy here. I don't even know what this apple is. I don't know. I know it's a specialty apple. It's a good hardy apple tree. It's not your run-of-the-mill regular apple. So anyways, I'm excited to see the kind of apples we'll get from that eventually. This is kind of the end of our property line here. So I've got 5 trees growing here. And then my garden is beyond that. Over here is where the raspberries are, and you can see the barn in the back. I do have a couple plums back behind all those trees as well, where we've cut down some trees. They're coming along, but they're not as well off as these ones are. So I'll show you now where my potatoes are, just to give you kind of idea of the layout of the property and where everything is. So you can see the trees, fruit trees. I also have an apple tree at the front of the house we planted, a Cortland, and it hasn't produced an apple yet, but it is a lot further along than most of our apple trees. So again, this is where we do our corn and our squash. This is where we do our potatoes, about 200 pounds of potatoes every year. So this is, if you have been following us, you know the story behind this. This year we have decided we are going to be taking this down. So our greenhouse, we didn't use it at all last year. We tried to fix it. Anyways, we are going to be taking this down this year. It's a bit of an eyesore. It has collapsed, as you can see. And we are going to rebuild it. Only this time I'm not putting it down here because it's so far away from the house that I never come down to this location anymore. Especially in the winter, it's really hard to get here with all of the snow buildup. So we are going to be taking this down and starting from scratch. We're going to build it higher. I would like to have a peak just so that the snow does fall off it more naturally. And it's going to be moving closer to the house. We have a spot in mind, but there's a lot of prep work for that. So it may or may not be done in the next year or two, but that's the plan. This is going to be taken down. I found that over the years, I don't necessarily need to have it. We tend to grow a lot of things outside, and we start them early enough that they do finish. So because it's not heated, it extends about a month of your season on both ends. So a month in the spring and a month in the fall. It extends that growing season. But if it was heated, it would do a lot more. So for now, we're just going to take it down, and I will be just using that as extra gardening space, along with here is where I do most of my cucumbers and stuff. And over here, I'll take you to our cherry bushes next. So here is our gooseberries. These ones are wild, but I'm keeping it here because it's a great pollinator for my cultivated gooseberry plant that we got when we were in New Brunswick. Haven't done a whole lot with them yet because it's still quite small, but these are the cherry bushes. I want to say maybe six years we planted this. So this is what you would call the romance series. So the Romeo and Juliet, that's the series, and I've got 3 of them just for good pollination. And the more that you plant, even if things are self-pollinating, you want to have extra plants in order to increase your yield. So just because something is self-pollinating, yes, you will get fruit, but you'll get even more if you plant more than one. So we have 3. You can see these are different varieties. They're doing really well. These ones are just starting to blossom. And these ones are in blossom. Beautiful. We've gotten a few cherries from here, and even though they are more of a sour cherry, they're actually not that sour. They're pretty sweet if you let them ripen up enough. But Lots of blossoms. This is really great because there's a lot of pollinators out right now in the spring with all the, the wasps, the bees, the black flies, everything that's coming out of hibernation from the winter is going to be helping to pollinate all these fruits. So we're really happy with how this is going. And this is closer to the roadside. So we've used up a lot of the space. There's the fruit trees there in the back. So we've used up as much space as we can on the property, as you can see. And we even have saved enough for our backyard that we can use it as a family and play games and whatever we need to do there. So a lot of our space is used up in separate areas for different things, and we garden in a huge section of the property. Plus we have all that area over there for the chickens. So this here is our hazelbird trees, or bushes, I guess you could call them. We have a video out just on the harvesting of these bushes, and they have grown so fast. I want to say this is about 5 years old. We have a couple planted here. Some are doing better than others. We get a lot of hazelbirds off of these bushes, but they're also a great privacy barrier as well as it's ornamental. But you can eat the hazelbirds from this bush as well. But we love it. It's so beautiful also in the fall. It really fills out nicely. In the fall, it's so beautiful. It turns like a red, rusty, kind of orangey, the leaves, like orangey color. So they turn out really well. I do love having these around, and these are really hardy for here as well. And this over here is our Cortland apple tree. Haven't got any apples from it yet, but it's doing really well. It's probably the largest tree that we have here. Planted about 5 years ago, but it was probably a 3 or 4 year tree at that point, whereas some of the other ones were a 2 or 3 year tree. So I have been pruning this one. I do need to do some more pruning this winter and just kind of get out some of the center and just make it so that there's good airflow going around this tree. There's a few blossoms I can see at the top of this tree, and I want to be able to cut off some of this stuff at the top because I don't want it too high where I can't reach the apples. But anyways, you can see this is another border of our property, and we are using up as much of the property as we can to put food on. But not only that, I love to garden in general, not just food, but also herbs and flowers. I've got to come in here. This is my flower bed, a ton of perennial flowers. Some are edible, some I use just for helping with pollination. We bring so many bees and different pollinators and hummingbirds here that having a nice perennial garden is actually really good to have on your homestead. It brings that pollination and pollinators for your food. So this is kind of my joy. I haven't spent any time in this, as you can see, but things are coming up. I need to do some pruning, some weeding, and just cleaning it up really nicely. And this is our raised bed that we've got some strawberries. I want to say we have about 6 plants so far, but I want to increase this bed and just increase our strawberry plants in here. So these are maybe a year old, and this is our comfrey plant. It comes back every year. It is I guess you could say it's a herb maybe. It's a perennial, but this is great medicinally, as well as it's really great to put around your fruit trees, and even the leaves as they decompose around your fruit trees give lots of nutrients to your fruit trees as they grow. Just in our regular garden here, where I do most of my gardening, is grapevines, which I've taken lots of cuttings from and propagated many times. Starting to bud out. They take a little bit more time to get their leaves than any other fruit plant that I have. Need a major trim job though, but they're budding out. We get a ton of grapes from these, and they're really sweet. Well, thanks for joining us once again at Ploughman's Backyard. I hope you've enjoyed this garden tour, just being able to see what's coming up this spring and just the excitement of it all. What's going to be harvestable this year? What are we going to get from our yields? Every year is different, and it's exciting to see all these flowers and blossom. Just indicating, because fruit, generally you have to wait quite a long time for fruit trees. Bushes take a little bit less time, and definitely the raspberries are less time. I'm going to head over now and just start weeding the asparagus like I had mentioned, and see if I can get a break from all these black flies. Anyways, till next time, take care.